This is the image of an Israeli soldier getting shot and starting to run away. There is a rocket attack near a tank. Well, there are people injured when the rocket falls, but their other friends run inside and leave the wounded outside. Well, actually, it's a very interesting image. I mean, we've always been there for a while. We were seeing the rocket fired by the brigades. Now we are seeing a rocket launcher for the first time. Let me put it that way. These are images taken from a documentary. These are probably an injured soldier, an Israeli soldier, so the footage always ends there. They were throwing the bomb. We didn't know what happened next. For the first time, see what happened to those soldiers. Behind this, if there are righteous people, yes, we will give that. The soldiers should not be carried. I think it is the most accurate image. We need to talk about that image, what happens next when the Qassam Brigades attack an Israeli unit. Yes, let's give it. There are 10 very beautiful images. We will talk about those images. They are carrying the wounded here, right? Yes, they took the injured, mostly from the area immediately. They take them to a safe area by helicopter. They load them on the helicopter and send them to the hospital. Well, I can say the most important example that we saw during this war. Yes, the Israeli army is behind in many respects. But I can say that they are very advanced in terms of evacuation and first aid for those in the field. How do you understand this from the future? Although the majority of the injured were injured by heavy weapons such as rocket launchers, the death rates are very low. You see, the H thing, when you look at the amount of injured, a large number of them lost limbs. That is, they either lost their legs or lost their hands. I mean, we are talking about seriously fragmented wounds, that is, they lost their limbs, the bleeding is very high. Well, he can take us back from a conflict environment and get him out alive. This tells us once again that the medical team in the field and the evacuation teams are actually very coordinated, and how important military medicine is. Let me tell you that because we are very important in everything. Look, education. Whirly heavily on a few things, one of which is that there are military doctors in our units. Well, in the past, there were doctors who had completed the military service. Well, we had doctors who came for military service. They would come to our units as Asen, but their number is mostly one in a battalion, that is, in a battalion. One thing falls. The doctor falls. But in private units, in each of our units, we have one friend. Our thing is the medical staff. And that staff is equipped to stabilize you enough to take you to the hospital. Because it works for months, that's its only job. That's the economics of working. That's the way it is, friends. It's not a doctor. As you know, a medic is a technician. I say a medic is a junior officer or a medic is a specialist surgeon. Their knowledge and experience will take you to the first hospital. If he is together, he has a much higher chance of keeping you alive because he intervenes immediately. If he is going to be cut off, any part of you will give you a great advantage to prevent him from being cut off. I always say that. Well, one of the places that should never be given up is military identity. That is one of the things that should never be given up in the Turkish army. Maybe the last thing to give up is military identity. It is very important. We trust him, that is, we know that he is our friend, that is our officer. Friends in the special forces, we know that that friend will keep us alive. There is information that Netanyahu has a secret plan for Gaza after the war, and that this has been leaked to the press. Now, the plan envisages Israel having military control over Gaza and allowing it to conduct operations along the strip. If they do as they wish, they are actually in the West Bank. Whatever is happening is an example of it. Maybe even more tightly and brutally. If one day the massacre ends there, it is envisaged to continue in Gaza as well. According to that plan, Israel, which has been waging a bloody war in Gaza for about 4 months, is also preparing a plan for the post-war period. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's secret plan was leaked to the press. According to the first stage of the plan, Israel will establish military control in Gaza. In this stage, an international Arab coalition will be established, including countries such as Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Morocco, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. This coalition will form a broader regional normalization agreement that supports the establishment of the new Palestinian administration. Neither Hamas nor the Fatah movement will be able to take part in the new Palestinian administration, which will take over control of Gaza from Israel. On the other hand, Israel will reserve the right to conduct military operations along the Strip. In other words, it will be able to intervene in Gaza on security excuses, just like the occupied West Sharia. At the first stage, a trace of reform will be expected from the Palestinian administration within 4 years. If Israel finds the reforms sufficient, it will recognize the Palestinian state. However, the principle of a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital, which is an indispensable part of the two-state solution, is not included in the plan. According to the Israeli press, the plan was prepared by business people close to Netanyahu, not by Netanyahu himself, and the draft was forwarded to America. The Jalan Post newspaper pointed out that Netanyahu has recently made such risky moves regarding Gaza not directly, but through intermediaries. On the other hand, hope is increasing for a longer-term ceasefire and comprehensive exchange in Gaza. The draft agreement agreed on Monat Israel presented a war cabinet. The Israeli press claimed that Netanyahu was trying to distance Hamas from the agreement by making harsh statements lately. This strategy will allow the war in Gaza to continue by blaming Hamas for the failure of the negotiations.